Let's rap,
Yeah,
top 10.
kick back on them in the whip that's foreign. Drip drop on them with a chick that's gorgeous.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back for another episode of Let's Rap. Today we have Happynotsaad. How do you say it? Saad. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just wanted to make sure I'm saying it correctly. Again, we want to thank you so much for being here with us. You could be anywhere. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, I just want to kind of get into a little bit more about what it is you do, understanding your journey. And then obviously a big portion of what we do at Let's Rap is give education back to others. So we also want to support and give advice to the younger kids that are coming up that want to do what you do. You know what I mean? And you tell them like the obstacles and that sort of thing. So with that being said, I just want to jump into, if you could give us, where you're located, a little bit of background on yourself.
The summary, okay. Well, we'll start right from the beginning. Immigrant to Canada.
Okay.
Pakistani family. I was actually born in Pakistan as well. Came here when I was very young. Grew up in British Columbia, the West Coast.
Nice.
The best coast, as I say it, but we'll argue about that later. After that, I went to college in Montreal. Spent a good 5 years there.
Where'd you go?
I went to McGill.
Actually, crazy story. And, it's not about me, though, but I went to Bishop. So anyway.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, only for 1 year, though. But yeah, go ahead.
Yo, I dropped out of my last year. I feel you on that. I went there for electrical engineering.
Okay.
And in the last year, I was like, this is, it's not right for me. And I found an opportunity in music to, kind of pursue my dreams and see if this is something that could be done. And I took it and I went over to Kitchener. And I lived in Kitchener for close to two and a half years. And just recently, because of the pandemic, I've moved back out west, but this time in Calgary, Alberta, where I have all my family. Got myself a nice little setup here for doing production, mixing, whatever post-production stuff I can do, and create a home base. Because a part of my work and a part of that opportunity that I found was working for an artist development company out of Kitchener called the AMA Collective. And what they do is they work with independent artists, labels, any musician, entrepreneur, music business, manager, A&R, whatever, to build careers, to get to revenue, thinking long-term, taking those risks, people who really want to do this full-time, that want to do this, for their life as their dream. And I found this opportunity and I was like, I can't do school anymore. I was feeling pretty fed up. I was in a bit of a rut, I'm like, what do I do? And I took it. I hopped on the VIA train and went straight to Toronto, hopped on a bus, and there I was working the next day.
Nice.
That's kind of the journey for me, I guess.
Yeah. So how did you find the collective group where you were like, okay, this is the one that I want to go with, and why did you choose that route? Why did you choose to work with them?
Yeah, well, actually through a close family friend, actually. So my parents and the founder of the collective's parents were best friends when they were raising their children, are still best friends, I would say, when they're raising all of us, like neighbors. And their son, AM, who is one of the founders, had his own success in the music industry. He was a producer. He worked as staff producer for Pharrell for a number of years. Did artist development for Cash Money, with Cash Money, the whole Rich Gang era. Very instrumental in that. Along with our other founder, Red Eyes, Miami legend, Billboard charting rapper, absolute, just full of wisdom. This guy is the most knowledgeable person in this I've ever met. An OG, if you will.
Right.
And they started AMA Collective, which is an artist development company, like I mentioned earlier, kind of pooling the resources, the knowledge that they have, as well as their connection with Cash Money, being our number one business partner, which allows us to work in some pretty cool studios and with some pretty cool people.
Okay, perfect. And then for yourself, obviously because you're on the production side as well. Do you do music yourself? Is that your forte? And how come you chose to go with the production as opposed to wanting to be the actual artist itself?
Oh man, well, I think I started off as the artist, you
Okay.
know, like as a producer doing electronic music on the West Coast growing up. Dubstep was the big thing that was coming,
Right.
you know, making those wobbles, the big basses, the big drums. And I grew up doing that, DJing, you know, small raves, parties, etc. Nothing too crazy, but you know, I released my own music, my own projects, which sometimes I listen back to and I'm like, damn, like I gotta start doing this again, you know, releasing my own music. But it eventually turned into, you know, doing just production for people, especially when I found this opportunity. Like I was never really in tune with hip hop. That was not what I came from. That wasn't the world that I came from. I grew up in a small town in BC. So it was like rock and roll. We had metal. We had the heavy electronica. I mean, that's kind of the world that I came from.
Absolutely.
So hip hop is actually quite new and quite fresh for me.
Okay. And just in terms of, I guess, the production side, let's dive into when you see an artist and you listen to them sonically, what to you makes a good song?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I'm full of them.
I mean,
I'm full of them.
yeah. I mean, for me, my ears automatically go to a few elements. You know, obviously the vocals, you know, what they're saying, how they're delivering it, their tones, the energy. I hear the bounce of a song or the slap or the thump of a song. So, you know, the bass of it, how that moves. I think that relates to kind of growing up in EDM scene.
Right.
You know, bass is everything in that. And then after that, kind of everything else fills in. Like, ooh, some cool percussion or cool melodies or whatever, catchiness. But for me, it's always like vocals and bass. You know, you can have good songs without that too, but that's the first thing I hear. And if you want to catch my attention, have big bass and have some killer vocals.
Right. So in terms of the artists that you have worked with, like, what is it like in terms of giving feedback to them? Like, do they take it well? Is it a place where you're like, okay, like, all right, that didn't sound too good, let's do it again? And they're like, well, no, I like the way it sounded. Like, what, like, how do you go about that?
Right. Well, everyone's different, right? Some artists, like especially very seasoned artists, they may, you know, they have more of an idea of what they want. When you're working up with developing acts or people who are just getting started, they're more open to feedback because they want the feedback. Generally, you know, they're very hungry. They want to know what they can do better. You know, what sounds good. You know, whenever a SoundCloud rapper is getting started, they're just throwing off links to everyone they can, right? They're trying to show that off. But you can get people who might be a little stubborn or what have you, and you know, you just have to build trust with the person. You know, you have to get comfortable with each other's energy, and you know, I'm a big believer in like spiritual connection. You know, the unseen, the no whatever it may be, that extra dimension. I think that's very important when you're working with someone, not just to connect with them, but to make the best music, because music is a reflection of what we're seeing, what we're feeling, what we're hearing. And if you can tap into that, then you can really make their vision come true. And so I find I don't get a lot of pushback if I'm giving creative criticism, you know, especially because I know how to present it to someone. You know, it's not like this sucks or that, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yo, like I like this element. I think we can elevate it if we tried this. Or maybe let's try experimenting on this. Let's see if we catch something, you know? And so I think people are fairly open to it.
And I think that's a good approach, because obviously an artist is going to be very particular in terms of their art form and what they do, right? They obviously are going to be like very sensitive to things that you say. So that's actually a really good approach. So just walk us through the day in the life. What does a day look like for you? Oh
man, I mean, COVID's changed a lot. I can tell you that. Most of it's spent in the house. But you know, if we're out in Miami where it's not quite as locked down or restricted, we have a few things we focus on. One is, you know, health. You know, getting exercise, eating well is very important to us. Eating like plant-based, you know, focusing on meat alternatives, not just trying to eat, you know, steak for dinner every night. You know, half of our team is vegetarian.
Oh, nice.
So I'm kind of the one oddball out that I eat my chicken every now and then. But right. I'm slowly converting. But we have the health aspect, and then we have the music aspect. So we'll start the day off with, eating well. We're gonna go to the gym, or maybe we'll go play ball or something. Then we'll come back and we're gonna focus on the music, or the business side of it, rather, I should say. We head to a cafe, we get our business meetings, we strategize, whatever we have to do, kind of get the ball rolling. Then the evening comes around, late afternoon, it's music time, right? It's time to get the music right. Because if you have the music right, you have your business straight, and you're healthy, then what more can you ask for, right? So that's kind of what the day looks like. We start off, play ball, whatever. Let's go do our business calls, and then we're gonna make music until we just can't stay up any longer.
Right.
That's kind of the day.
I know, because I've seen a couple different production studios and places, like, you guys don't sleep, man. Some guys don't sleep, man.
No, not at all. It's sometimes you'll be in the studio until 4 a.m. and then you'll be like, oh, let's go out, let's get some inspiration, whatever. You go to the club, you go to, I don't know, Miami's 24/7, so you can do anything at any time. And then you'll come back at 6 a.m. to the crib and you're like, I got all this inspiration now. What should I do? And you just make more music, and then the day just keeps going and going. So yeah, I feel that. I think it is important though to get sleep, regardless of if it's at 4 a.m. or 6 a.m. or 2 a.m. or at midnight. Getting your 8 hours is very important. If we're on a good schedule, we'll try and wake up around 11:30. There's some days where we wake up around like 2 or 3, but you just gotta make sure you get to sleep.
I was recently looking at Rick Ross. It's an older video, but he was talking about how he's changed his diet, and he was saying exactly what you said, to touch on your point, that the reason why he got seizures is because the same thing. The lifestyle is you're up late and then you barely sleep in the day because you got more things to do. And by the time that day goes by, you've already done like 48 hours with like 5-6 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, like you said, to your point, like, you got to prioritize the sleep portion, right?
Health's important, man. Health as well. Even if you're making hella dough, it means nothing if you can't use it. If your health is miserable, you got like issues somewhere in your body, or you have no energy all the time, or your mental health is taking a toll, right? That's a huge one too. Especially, I feel like in the social media world, we're always tapped in, and that can do so much to our psyche. With COVID being locked in, that can do so much to our mentals. So, it's very important to look at all the health, the spiritual health, the physical health, and then the mental health.
Absolutely. 100%. So if a new artist wanted to like just come and be a part of the organization, how do they go about doing that? Like, if they're like, oh, I think I'm the next hot thing, how do they just reach out to you? Like, how does it work, the process?
Yeah, they can reach out to any one of us on the team. We also do quite a bit of like talent scouting. So we'll try and see if there's any upcoming talent in the area, what it may be. But more than anything, we have people reaching out to us on the daily, Instagram DMs or LinkedIn DMs, which has been surprisingly, LinkedIn has kind of been like, we're getting lots of people trying to connect on there. Or emails. Emails are great because you can send your music, you can send us a nice bio about yourself. It gives us the information to contact you back right away. So that's probably the best ways, find the email through our bio or DM us, just get in contact, We're very approachable people.
And then just in regards to, your process in regards to once you get an artist on board, what do you guys do for them? Just for, the fans to kind of get an idea of what you guys would do once you bring an artist on board.
Yeah, it's different for every artist, right? Every artist needs something different. There's no set package with what we do. Our aim is always to think, okay, what is it that the artist needs, right? Because we're here really to service them. Some artists need like a lot of, let's say, support on the creative end, right? We really need to load up the room with songwriters, producers, what it may be. There may be other artists that we can keep it a little bit more low key, just maybe one songwriter, we got one producer, engineer, A&R always in the room, whatever it may be. But what we'll do with the artists is we'll think, okay, we need to strategize long-term for you, because no career is made overnight. We're not selling pipe dreams, As a matter of fact, like, we also don't take in everyone who reaches out to us. We have a very low, acceptance rate, if you will, to the people that we would do work with. So we'll do like creative work with them. So we have different studios. We have a beautiful, gorgeous private studio in Kitchener. We have a beautiful space in Miami, as well as when we do work in Miami, we're working out of some absolutely legendary studios, Hit Factory, Circle House. I mean, this is where Nikki still has her room in the Hit Factory.
That's crazy.
You can see it. Yeah, it's like she's got these starlights that kind of come down. It's really cool. You know, Wayne, up until recently, had his room there. I mean, they removed the half pipe from his booth, but you can still see the marks where his skateboard was when he was and all that. So yeah, we'll work out of those legendary studios. We look into, you know, strategic growth, you know, strategic content, strategic marketing. You know, it's a lot about building game plans for the future that work for the artist, because at the end of the day, that's what matters, right? Not every artist wants to go to a label. Not every artist wants to go independent. You know, even though we might preach, you know, independent's good, try and go independent as much as you can, but it's different, right? It's impossible for me to tell you exactly what would be done, but we do everything from the creative work to, you know, marketing, branding, and of course, building a pathway for you, right? There's no other artist development company that has the ties to a major label the way we do, you know, with Cash Money being so close, with Birdman just being a call away. So it's about building that pathway to success, right? How can you make it full time? That's a big question to ask for an artist, you know, because to make it full time is like, you need to bring in revenue. How do we do that? How do we get you to revenue? That's a big question to answer too. What makes sense for this artist? They have interest in merchandising and clothing. Okay, let's push a merch line too. So I could speak all day about the different things, but
that's good. It's good insight, man. It's good to really break down like what it is you guys do and give, you know, more knowledge, I think, to a lot of people that want to do this on a day-to-day basis. Because let's face it, there's so many people that want to be artists, man. There's just so many, or they're doing it part-time or they're doing it on their own, right? I know you just touched on being independent versus being signed to a label. In today's world, do you think it's very important to still get signed to a label if need be? I know you said stay independent, but do you think that's the route that you should probably take as much as possible?
Yeah, and it depends on the person, right? Because when you get a deal with a label, I mean, you're really getting a loan, right? Yeah. It's not free money. And I think a lot of artists don't realize that. You know, you're getting a loan to deliver, right? If you're getting, say, $1 million deal, right? They're expecting projects out of that. They're expecting that those projects are going to bring a return on their investment.
Right.
So it's very important to make it clear that, you know, this isn't free money. There's no free money in any of this. You're going to have to hustle, right? And there's so many tools available to artists, producers, people, you know, even just creatives in general.
Right.
In this to do it independently, especially now with like, I'm not sure if you've heard much about NFTs, you know, non-fungible tokens. Oh,
yeah.
Basically the crypto-based, I guess, digital art forms, and, you know, Blau and Deadmau5 and other artists releasing music through it. I mean, it's really going to change the game in terms of how you own music and you can collect royalties. But I guess to come back to the main point is, you know, that aside, you also have Spotify, you have sync licensing, you have ad revenue. There's so many opportunities to make money independently in this. So it's not always the case. It doesn't make sense for everyone to be with a label, right? If you don't have to. Plus, if you can prove yourself independently and then you go to a label, well, you've just proved your business model, right? So you can have more leverage for whatever deal that you wanna sign. And that's a big thing. I mean, labels now are really looking for established artists. That's why they don't do artist development anymore. That's why we exist. It's because, you know, labels aren't really doing this. No major labels are really doing this at the level it may once have been. Because there's a million artists who have that blue check on their Instagram, who have, you know, some 100,000 followers, million followers. There's micro celebrities everywhere.
Right.
So yeah, you have to come, if you come established and built and proven, it'll be better for you in the long run.
No, it's good. And that's good information. I think, you know, obviously, like we've done some interviews with some other people, other rappers, and, you know, everybody, like you said, has a different opinion. Some people say, hey, look, if they throw that check, I'm going to sign it, man. Like, it doesn't matter. And then some people are like, no, I'm going to try to really make my thing work for myself without having someone come in and take control and then take a piece of everything that I'm kind of doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
With that being said, in terms of advice you would give to somebody that wants to do what you do in terms of production, on the production side, what advice do you give to somebody?
Consistency. That's a big thing. For every artist, there's probably 2 producers, I feel like. It's become so easy to just make a beat. And in fact, I think, calling people producers nowadays even is a little bit extra. We're really beat makers, although I pride myself on trying to be a producer, the whole shebang. But in general, we're just beat makers. We're putting together loops. We have Splice, which has however many, just a massive library of sample packs and loop banks and MIDI kits, sound presets. I mean, you name it, you can get everything right off of that one platform. And I'm not trying to promote Splice here. I'm just saying, if you want to make hit beats quick, that's a pretty quick way to make that happen. You get your drum loop, drag it into Fruity Loops. You got a little melody, drag it into Fruity Loops. You just cut that thing around a little bit, boom, there you go.
Right.
So I guess the real question becomes for, as a beat maker, how do you set yourself apart? Because anyone can just make the beat right now.
That's good, yeah.
And that's sometimes a tough question to answer, right? Because I think for me, I was very blessed coming from a different world where beat making wasn't really a thing. It was frowned upon to get samples. You had to make everything in the plugin, in the VST, in the DAW, whatever it may be. And that helped me cultivate myself and stand out, because I'm not just, a hip hop beat maker. I'm a full-fledged multi-genre producer, right? Whether it's an EDM track or trap beat, or you want to do some indie stuff. I mean, I got hella guitars over here. I'll put something down.
Yeah.
And that gave me my edge. But that's not the case for everyone. Some people are coming into this pretty fresh still. So what you could do is you can try and find a sound, try and use samples in a way no one has, or maybe use gear, maybe use analog, it's a little synth right here.
Right.
Actually, I have 3 synths. Use some stuff that, not a lot of people are using in the beats. There's not a lot of people that are using, let's say, vintage sounds. Get an emulation of this guy, Arturia V, just for my producers, Arturia V collection, or maybe they even have a Arturia 6 sound. I don't know. But they have amazing emulations of these kind of analog gears that sound almost 1-to-1. Sometimes I don't even use this. I just use the plugin because I don't know, I'm lazy, I guess. But,
right.
Do something different. Get a tape machine, a cheap tape machine off of like Craigslist or Kijiji. Like I got this guy like hella cheap. I spent $250 for this bad boy right over there.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll just throw the beat through tape. If it's a lo-fi beat or something, you get all the noise. It kind of has some weird delay to it sometimes.
Right.
Do that. That'll help set you apart. And hell, if you can't, you want to do everything in the box, there's emulations for all this, right? And you don't even have to necessarily buy them if you can't afford it. There's some people out there that could help you with that, which I won't particularly endorse right now. But I'm just saying, there's no reason not to be able to do anything with the power of the internet.
Yeah.
Leave it at that, I guess. But
and I think that's a major component. That's obviously a thing that we're talking about with every person we speak with, in regards to empowering them to understand that you can use the internet in today's world for so many things, right? You can outsource things, like you were saying. You can have conversations with people. You can network, which I think that's the major key, because that's going to determine, obviously monetarily what you're going to make, right? In the long run, depending on how many people you got in your network. I think that's some great advice, and I think people will definitely look into that. So would you say it's the beat that makes a song, or is it the lyrics? I always like to ask that question, just to throw it out there, because you're on the other side of the spectrum.
Well, I know, as much as I like to say, oh yeah, the beat's fire, this and that, but the truth is, a beat on its own is nothing, right? You have to have the vocalist on there to make something out of it. I guess that's where, the EDM world is different. You can make full songs without any vocals whatsoever. And that's the world I came from originally. But in hip hop, in pop music, in R&B, in anything like that isn't EDM, even EDM has so much vocals to it, I guess, but you have to have a vocalist. Otherwise, what is it on its own? And I've proven this over and over where I'll like show a beat to just some friend who's like casual listener or something. They'll be, oh yeah, this is cool. They just don't understand it without any vocals. They're like, what is this? It just sounds like a loop or something. Like, so yeah, you need the vocalist, you need the artists, you need the network, like you said too. It's very important.
Absolutely. Would you say, in regards to today's artist, are you more into the melodic type of music, or are you more into, like, I know you're in so many different genres, but what kind of music do you like sonically for yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's just some songs that speak to me. Some have no melodic elements to it whatsoever. It might just be some like hard just spitting bars or something. And then there's others that are very sing-songy, very smooth, melodic. It's just something maybe about what's being said, or the energy of the instrumentation. That's really what speaks to me from a song. If I think of like examples, I guess on my library, like the songs that I really enjoy, there's like Trippie Redd, right, which is a very just trap, like southern sound. I'll enjoy that. I love that he's singing on that. He's super hard beats, a little bit spatial. And then I might go listen to like Zach Fox or something, because what he's saying is just super funny,
right.
And he has this energy about him. I guess really what it is, this is a good question, make me think on this one. I think what it really is the connection to whoever's making that music. Whether that be really like inspiring lyrics or funny lyrics, or just a really cool production, or something that just hits really hard and you get that kind of disgusting, face going on after.
You're right.
Yeah, I think that's really what it is for me.
Obviously, because you're on the development side as well as production. Do you think, again, in today's world, is it about the brand of the artist that is going to make them be successful, or is it really going to come down to the talent, which is the musical part? I'm only asking that because I'm seeing a lot of artists today that maybe they aren't the greatest artist, but their brand sells them pretty well. You know what I mean? Like off of the music, like in terms of like you were saying earlier, like let's say what they do in terms of their regular day life, how they speak, what they talk about is more impactful than their actual music. What do you think in terms of what you've seen?
It can go either way. I think the brand part is very important, because you can always make good music. Now more than ever, it's easier to make good music. You can use auto-tune and do some like trap, like Travis Scott. That's all auto-tune on it. It's heavy processing, right? Even Drake's stuff is heavily processed. The music, if you have the right kind of infrastructure around you, the right producers, engineers, getting the mixes right, you can make crazy music, hit music. Right, probably within 6 months after you figure out how to write a little bit, maybe delivery. I bet you can make some crazy music. But the brand, who a person really is, that's a lot tougher to develop or to teach. You can't really change who someone is at their core.
Right.
So the brand is super important, and that's a whole world too, branding, right? Because you can be your authentic self online. Like I'm my authentic self online. What you're seeing is basically what you're getting. This kind of scatterbrained guy running around in different studios or laying down on the beach having an existential crisis. That's me. That's not a show. I'm living life. We can also have brandings which are kind of like an act, if you will, like it's a character. So finding what speaks to you, what your art is. Is it your genuine self that you're sharing? Is it this persona? Because once you figure that out, the marketing side will become easier. The music you want to make becomes a little easier, and it gives you direction, especially in this like modern day, industry where it's all based off like social media, online platforms. It's a different game, right? It's a much different game. Right. People will go to shows after they look at your Insta. They'll be like, oh, who's that? They're gonna go right to your Insta or whatever. And they're gonna
exactly.
see who this is. Oh, that looks sick. I gotta go see them live, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think that is why I was asking that question, because I've seen artists where it's like I don't really feel their music, but then I go and I look at who the person is, and then that could kind of actually do the reverse model where you're like, you know what, I kind of do like the music now.
Yeah.
So I think that's, you know, that's some great gems there for somebody to understand. Like you're giving them like the brand is definitely going to be a major portion of your musical content, but the music sometimes can speak for itself. You know what I mean? So
yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think rather if you have both of those, then you are just golden. Right. I guess to use Drake, like his brand presence, you know, the kind of the swagger that he emits just on social media somehow, you know, OVO, the power that has, paired with his music, which is phenomenal. You know, I think he's one of the best songwriters ever. You know, it may be an unpopular opinion for some of the underground people, but I believe that. I mean, you listen to some of these bars or what he's talking about or how he's delivering them. Yeah, no one greater.
I think too, what people have to do is, and obviously the old hip hop heads, I'm one of those people too. Like what they try to do is put people in categories still. And in today's world, you can't do that. They always try to put Drake in this rap category. And I don't personally put Drake as a rapper. Drake to me is just an artist. You know what I'm saying? So that, and guys don't want to separate that because they go, okay, yo, he's still nice with the bars though. But then he's singing at the same time. So it's like, you know, 50 kind of made that point, and he said Drake has basically kind of changed the game in regards to he's been able to teeter on both lines, like you were saying, you know? So I think that's a major key. Yeah,
that's why he's such a huge presence. So he's just a international phenomenon. You know, he really changed the game, man. And he built Toronto, really, like this kind of culture that we have a lot, especially in hip hop rather, is because of him, you know. And the people that are coming up, you know, under his shadow, if you will, in a way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I've heard stories, you know, walking through Hip Factory where we'll just be outside the studio and then like Eyes or the other A&Rs will be like, you see that couch right there? That's where Drake was sleeping. You know, that's where Nicki was sleeping. Outside waiting for sessions because they couldn't get back in. You know, I share this because like it puts in perspective that like even these greats like had to grind. You know, they had to start from sleeping on the couch to get where they were. They didn't have any easy path. You know, they fought for this, and yeah, that's why they are what they are.
And I was gonna say to that, do you think artists from Toronto or anywhere, I should say in Canada, do they need to leave Canada and go to another country to get an audience base and then come back home? Because what I always hear is like, yo, like I don't get love in my own country. I gotta go somewhere else first and then I can get love when I get home. Because Toronto's kind of like that. I think Canada's like that. But what do you say to that?
Well, I think that's a little bit of a fallacy. I'm not sure if that's quite the right word, but the thing is, if you're not popping in your own city, how are you going to pop somewhere else? Right? I think it's very important also, especially if it's your roots, because those are your people, right? What better way to build fans than with your people? Especially early on in your career, because it's so boots to the ground, right? You're building fans one fan at a time. So when you go to a different country, different city, you know, how are you going to do that if you don't have a fan base? You know, if you don't have that presence, you know? If someone comes from out of town, it's always like, oh, they're popping in New York or they're popping here. That's why they've come here, right? That kind of makes sense. So I believe you have to work your own people, right? You got to bring them with you. They're your ride or dies. Unless you completely run away, I guess, somewhere, but that's, who knows. But no, I would say, yeah, you gotta be popping in your own town, you know, build your people, build your family, and then expand. Right.
No, that's good information. And just as we're wrapping up, I want to ask you this another challenging question. Who do you go with? Are you going with Tory or Drake in terms of two different sounds, but I think they're still monsters in the game. Like, you know,
it's like apples and oranges almost. And I like both of those fruits. So, yeah, I mean, obviously showing love to Drake, man. I mean, big inspiration for me, and what he's achieved and what he's done for his people too. I find that very inspiring. You know, like 40, you know, bringing him up, and the kind of beast that he is now because of this. And I was watching like a Pensado's Place. It's like this mix engineer podcast thing, and he was doing an interview, and they're talking about how he has like an immune disorder, or like it's not lupus or something. Like he has quite a substantial ailment, and you know, he's battled that off through building like Drake. You know, building Drake's sound, building all that, and I found that very inspirational. So yeah, for me, you know, Drake is the man, building not only himself, but building his people and building his community. You know, I think that just shows such generosity and genuineness, if you will, to be like, no, I'm Canadian. He could have very well have just tossed that aside. You know, I don't think even Bieber really shows his own Canadianness in the same way that like Drake has. I mean, views, like he's got CN Tower on the cover. I mean, what more can you ask for putting on his city, for bringing Canada up, not just Toronto, like GTA, like Canada.
Right.
I just respect him so much for that. And he's a GOAT. I still think Tory Lanez's got, you know, a lot more to go till he gets to that level, you know.
Right. No, for sure. And I always like to ask that question just to see what people's, you know, because so far I've heard like 4 people say Drake, some people have said Tory, so I don't know. I guess like what you like, right? When you're listening. But yeah, man, we want to thank you for being here again. Thanks for being a part of Let's Rap.
Thank you for having me.
We definitely want to, you know, keep this as a regular thing. Like maybe in a couple months to see how things are going with you, pre-COVID and then after COVID. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just that, you know, for the last moments, is there anything you want to shout out? Anything we should look for? Let us know.
If you have any more questions or anything like that, you can hit me up on Instagram, Happynotsaad. That's Saad with 2 A's. The reason I made that name is because everyone calls me Saad, and I have to keep telling them, nah, I'm happy, bro.
Right.
So that's where the name came from. But yeah, you can hit me up on there. I'm more than happy to, you know, answer whatever questions. We also got a Discord server set up. So if you want to kind of join a community of like-minded people, I can shoot you an invite for that. It is invite only, but hit me up. I'll send you an invite. And yeah, like I just hope everyone keeps creating, especially now with COVID. There's so much kind of like weird cabin fever, stress, mental health issues, physical health, you know, we're not working out. I hope that, you know, if you keep doing this art, keep pushing for your craft, that it'll help you through these times. And when we're over, when, you know, everything's open back up, not only will you have been healthy, but you'll have a healthy catalog of songs to release, healthy catalog of beats to push to artists for them to hopefully release. And yeah, stay safe, keep making music, have fun, and get 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you, Saad. Thanks for coming on, man. Like I said, we definitely hit you up, and we just want to let people know definitely they can go check you out and reach out to you if they have any sort of questions. That's awesome. So with that being said, another episode down. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
Let's rap then, no cap, I'm captain. Bands elastic, the racks are wrapped in. See through plastic, the camera's flashing. We live that life, 4-piece suit, she said I look so dashing. And I came to die, on my lap where I placed a napkin. This ain't just rapping, this a lifestyle you can't match with. Let's rap, get you tapped in.
Kick back on them in the whip, that's foreign. Drip drop on them with a chick that's gorgeous.